And in Caitlin Clark's case, the similarities are impossible to ignore. Her court vision, her fearless playmaking, her ability to turn pressure into fuel. Right now, Caitlin isn't just playing basketball, she's carrying a league, reshaping a sport, and pulling an entire new generation of fans into the WNBA. Every arena she steps into, packed. Every feed, flooded with her highlights. She's become the face of a movement. But with all that spotlight comes the storm. And lately, that storm's been loud. The criticism, the doubts, the constant attempts to chip away at her impact, it hasn't stopped. But neither has she. Caitlin Clark keeps showing up, keeps delivering, and keeps making it clear. This league has never seen anyone quite like her. So in this video, we're cutting through the noise. We're diving into the reactions from players, legends, analysts, and fans. Because whether they're praising her or pushing back, one thing's clear. Caitlin Clark has the entire basketball world watching. And just like Larry Bird back then, she's earning every second of it. In Indiana, leadership means more than just putting up points. It means showing up, being present, and setting the tone for your team and the city. Tyrese Halliburton knows that. He's done it for the Pacers, and he sees that same energy in Caitlin Clark. From one point guard to another, Halliburton sees the bigger picture, the pressure she's under. And still, he sees her leading, competing at the highest level with the weight of the world on her shoulders. That's why, when asked about Caitlin, his message was pure support.
Yeah, I think she's just so amazing what she does. I love being here to support her in any way I can, and I think we're just 2 point guards trying to lead our group to do something special. So any way I can be here to support, I'll be here.
Just two floor generals recognizing the grind in each other. Caitlin Clark isn't just a WNBA player trying to survive. She's already doing the heavy lifting, directing traffic, taking the hits, and trying to elevate the Fever the same way Halliburton has elevated the Pacers. And what makes this moment so powerful is that Tyrese sees it. When one of the smartest young stars in the NBA stands beside you, not above you, that's real recognition. Indiana doesn't just have one leader, it has two. Sometimes the most revealing stat isn't in a box score, it's in who shows up to play beside you. And Jason Whitlock didn't mince words when talking about what's happening behind the scenes in the WNBA. Say what you want about Whitlock. He's bold, brash, and never afraid to stir the pot. But this time, he's tapping into a reality players usually don't say out loud.
They put a super team around Caitlin Clark because people want to play with Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
The Chicago Sky, they look perhaps worse than they were a year ago because people don't want to play with Angel Reese.
Caitlin Clark isn't just attracting fans, she's attracting talent. And that's a rare kind of gravitational pull. The Fever didn't need to beg players to join. They didn't need a flashy city or a deep playoff history. All they needed was Caitlin. Because when players choose where to go in free agency, it's about more than money. It's about culture. It's about chemistry. And it's about trust. Trust that the person next to you knows how to win, how to lead, how to raise the standard. And Clark, she checks every box. And when you zoom out, Whitlock's quote isn't just about Caitlin versus Angel. It's about where the league is going. Teams aren't just signing stars, they're building around personalities. And Caitlin's personality, it's the blueprint for the modern franchise star. Humble, hungry, and headline-worthy. If you're a front office exec trying to revive a struggling franchise, who do you want as your cornerstone? The player who gets booed at opposing arenas, or the one who turns every game into a sold-out event? Whitlock's point cuts through all the media noise. People don't just want to watch Caitlin Clark, they want to play with her. And in a league that's still growing, still fighting for attention, that kind of pull might be more valuable than any stat line. Because when stars start recruiting themselves, that's when you know you've got something special. In sports, there are two kinds of fame. There's basketball fame earned through MVPs, playoff moments, iconic performances. And then there's cultural fame. The kind that reaches people who don't even follow the sport. The kind that makes someone a household name, not just in ESPN debates, but in classrooms, offices, group chats, and grandma's Facebook feed. Right now, Caitlin Clark lives in that second category. She's not just hooping, she's on cereal boxes, trending during NFL Sundays, dominating coverage on platforms that usually wouldn't touch the WNBA unless it was finals week. She's not playing for a dynasty. She's not playing in LA or New York. She's in Indiana, on a rookie deal. And yet, she might be the most talked about hooper in the country. That's why Colin Cowherd, never one to exaggerate without purpose, didn't hesitate to drop this bombshell.
How many NBA players are more famous than Caitlin Clark? LeBron, Steph, absolutely.
Maybe Durant.
That's what I put. I wrote down KD maybe.
Yeah.
In 1 year, out of women's basketball, for a horrible team when she arrived, outside of LeBron and Steph, she is the most well-known basketball player currently playing in the United States.
Think about the gravity of what Cowherd is saying. In a league stacked with megastars, million-dollar marketing machines, and global followings, Caitlin Clark is in the top 3 for name recognition. That's absurd, and yet it's true. This isn't about who's winning more games. It's about who's moving culture. And Clark's doing it faster than anyone we've seen in decades. In fact, we haven't seen this kind of icon leap for a long time. Cowherd's tone wasn't shocked. It was matter of fact, like he was just stating what everyone with eyes and internet already knows. Caitlin Clark isn't just playing basketball, she's altering the ecosystem. And what's wild, she hasn't even scratched the surface yet. So if you're wondering who's got next, not just in the W, but in all of basketball, it's not a what if anymore. It's Caitlin. Sometimes the biggest moments in sports don't come from buzzer beaters or championships, they come from tension. From two players, different backgrounds, different styles, different energies, colliding at just the right time, with the whole world watching. That's exactly what happened with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. And according to Jonathan Isaac, that friction isn't a problem. It's the spark.
Because of the rivalry, because of Angel Reese, because of Caitlin Clark, has sparked an interest in women's basketball that wasn't completely there before. So I'm happy for that. And so I want to see it play out. I want to see them, continue to grow their careers and be the best female basketball players that they can be.
Now, on the surface, it sounds like he's giving equal credit to both sides. But let's tell the truth. If Angel Reese came into the WNBA without Caitlin Clark, it wouldn't even be a headline. Angel's profile was built standing next to Caitlin. The trash talk, the gestures, the fouls, it all only mattered because Clark was the one on the receiving end. Without Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese is just another player fighting for a storyline. With Caitlin, she became a viral clip, and that clip gave her career oxygen. But here's the key thing. Caitlin never needed her. Caitlin Clark walked into the league with record-breaking numbers, an iconic college career, and a fan base that followed her. She didn't borrow hype. She made the WNBA unavoidable. She made the league move to primetime. And she did it all before the rivalry even existed. So yes, Jonathan sees the moment. He's right that the spotlight is bigger than ever. But let's not get it twisted. The media isn't covering Angel Reese and then checking in on Caitlin Clark. It's the other way around. Angel gets attention because Caitlin Clark's name is on the marquee. This isn't a two-woman act. It's a one-woman era, and her name is Caitlin Clark. So when people say the rivalry is good for the league, sure, it adds fuel. But the fire? The fire was already burning the second Caitlin Clark touched a WNBA floor. Every league has its turning point. For the NBA, it was Magic and Bird. For women's tennis, it was Serena. For the UFC, it was Conor McGregor. For the WNBA, that moment is now. And Rachel Demita didn't hesitate to name the reason why.
2024 was a year of unprecedented growth in viewership in the WNBA, a substantial amount of which can be attributed to Caitlin Clark, who took the basketball world by storm after an all-time college career.
This wasn't just a spike in numbers. It was a tidal wave. Game after game, arenas that used to struggle to fill the lower bowl were now packed to the rafters. Broadcasts that barely broke 6 figures were suddenly pulling millions of views. Entire social media ecosystems formed around highlights, interviews, and think pieces about Caitlin Clark. And none of this is random. This isn't just good timing. It's her. Caitlin Clark didn't wait for the league to catch up to her popularity. She brought the spotlight with her from day one. From the moment she slipped on that Fever jersey, the league felt different. Because here's the truth. There are moments in sports when talent intersects with timing. When a player doesn't just join a league, they redefine it. And Caitlin Clark was the headline. The most hyped female basketball player in years, coming off one of the most legendary college careers ever. And somehow, she exceeded expectations. Not just with her game, but with her presence. Her ability to carry the weight of an entire league without blinking. What Rachel Demita saw wasn't just a great basketball player. She saw a moment. A player that moved the needle. A player that, whether you were watching to cheer her on or hoping she'd fail, made you watch. And for a league that's been waiting years for this kind of breakout, Caitlin Clark didn't just arrive, she detonated. Not everyone is rolling out the red carpet. For every highlight reel, for every jersey sellout, for every next face of the league headline, there's been pushback. And a lot of it? Sounds like what Megan Rapinoe said. She didn't go full attack mode, but if you read between the lines, the message was loud and clear.
You don't want to become the girl, the team, the coach, the player who cries wolf all the time. It's just like, I feel like sometimes it's just like constant. And like, to what end? And I think especially around the Fever team and especially around Caitlin, this has like been a thing. It was a thing last year. Like sometimes you just have to like play through it and like earn a little bit more respect.
That's not a critique of her jump shot. That's a critique of how the noise is being handled. And maybe it's fair. Maybe Rapinoe, who's faced her own firestorms, sees something familiar. She's been there, on the world stage, in the spotlight, taking hits from all directions. Maybe this was her version of a reality check. Her way of saying, we've all been the target. You've got to deal with it. But there's something else under the surface, a little friction. Because while Caitlin Clark has absolutely been targeted, on the court, off the court, in the headlines, she's also done something few players have ever done. Not just survive, but thrive through it. Yes, she gets fouled hard, but she hasn't asked for pity. She hasn't ducked questions. She's taken every elbow, every headline, every hot take, and kept hooping. So when Rapinoe says, earn a little more respect, you can't help but ask, what more does she need to do? She's breaking records, lifting a struggling franchise, carrying media attention for an entire league, and doing it all with a composure that even vets haven't mastered. This is a player demanding respect, through performance, through poise, through presence. Rapinoe's words aren't without merit. Every young star has to prove themselves. But if the standard is play through it and earn respect, Caitlin Clark's already doing that every single night. Every sport has its God-tier legends. The ones who don't just dominate their era, they define it. Basketball has Jordan, while tennis has Serena, and football has Messi. And hockey? Hockey has Wayne Gretzky, the great one. The man holds so many records they literally had to adjust how the NHL talked about stats. He wasn't just better than his peers, he was miles ahead. So when someone like Wayne Gretzky speaks, especially about an athlete outside of his own sport, you listen. Because he doesn't talk about many, and he definitely doesn't talk about just anyone. So when Gretzky, standing outside the basketball world, looked over and gave Caitlin Clark her flowers, it wasn't just surprising. It was historic.
Look at Caitlin Clark, how she's kept just taken over the country, and for that matter, maybe the world, and how she's encouraged so many young girls now to participate in sports, whether it's basketball or soccer or volleyball.
That's not just a compliment. That's a passing of the torch. Because Gretzky knows what that kind of influence looks like. He was that influence. Every kid on the ice in the 1980s wanted to be Wayne. And Gretzky didn't just focus on basketball. He mentioned football, volleyball, completely different sports. That's how you know it's real. This isn't about points per game or pick and roll reads. This is about reach. Caitlin Clark is making young girls believe that sports can be the dream, not just a side hobby. And when a global icon like Gretzky says she's taken over the country, that's not casual praise, that's legacy talk. Few athletes ever reach that level. The kind of fame and inspiration that jumps out of their own arena and starts changing lives in others. Caitlin's not just growing the WNBA, she's growing the idea of what women's sports can be. And for the great one to say that out loud, you know it's already bigger than basketball. There are takes, and then there are flamethrowers. Ben Shapiro doesn't do soft opinions. He's built a media empire off of pushing buttons, challenging narratives, and saying what most people wouldn't dare to tweet. And when he turned his focus to the WNBA, he didn't ease into the conversation. Because to Shapiro, this isn't about offense sets or player development. It's about visibility. And for him, the equation is simple. No Caitlin Clark, no spotlight.
Can we be clear about this? If Caitlin Clark were not in the WNBA, we would not be talking about the WNBA. She is the only ticket draw in the WNBA. A large percentage of all tickets sold in the WNBA are so people can watch Caitlin Clark play basketball. No one cares about Angel Reese. Should be drawing flies if she were playing not against Caitlin Clark on the court right now. Angel Reese has basically become the Bill Laimbeer to Caitlin Clark's Larry Bird, essentially. That is where we now are.
And guess what? He's right. Caitlin Clark isn't a reason the WNBA is booming, she's the reason. She didn't just boost ticket sales, she flipped the entire business model. Everywhere she goes, crowds follow. National broadcasts that never cared before, suddenly locked in. Social media that barely acknowledged the WNBA, flooded with her highlights. The WNBA isn't riding a wave, it's riding her. And let's talk about that Angel Reese comparison. Bill Laimbeer wasn't just a villain. He was defined by the stars he played against. And Shapiro nailed it. Caitlin isn't part of some rising duo. She's not sharing the spotlight. She is the spotlight. Angel might bring edge, but Caitlin brings eyeballs, energy, and evolution. This isn't a rivalry. This is Clark, at the center of the basketball universe, and everyone else trying to keep up. So yeah, Shapiro went nuclear with his delivery. But Caitlin fans, you already know the truth. She's the one putting the league on the map. This is reality. And her name is Caitlin Clark. We've all seen the headlines, the comparisons, the buzz. But now, we finally get to hear it straight from the source. The greatest to ever play the game, Michael Jordan, just said something about Caitlin Clark that takes everything to a whole new level. If you thought the Bird comparisons were just noise, think again. This is the moment we've all been waiting for.
Watching Caitlin Clark feels like watching Larry Bird all over again. The vision, the passing, the swagger. But this season, there's something else. She's got a sharper edge, a quiet fire. I just hope she keeps that energy and starts biting back at the ones trying to break her.
There it is. When Michael Jordan sees Larry Bird and Caitlin Clark, that's not just praise, that's legacy. And if the GOAT sees it, maybe it's time the rest of the league starts paying attention too. Before Caitlin Clark, Indiana Fever games were just another event on the calendar. Maybe you'd swing by after work. Maybe you'd catch a half-empty arena and a decent game. But there was no buzz, no must-see moment, no sense that something big was happening. And then, Caitlin Clark arrived and everything changed. Nobody captured that transformation better than Pat McAfee, a guy who knows the Indiana sports scene better than anyone.
Before Caitlin Clark, I went to a couple Fever games. Was lucky to go. Had a great team. Fever have had a great franchise, great team for a long time. Won, like,
2012.
Yeah, won, like, back in the, I got here 2009. So, like, the Fever, good program, great fan base. Okay, we're talking, I don't know, maybe 7,000, 10,000 people at those games, you know, in the middle of the week in Gamebridge Arena. Mm-hmm. Since she has arrived, every game that the Fever play in, that place is packed.
That's not an exaggeration. McAfee's been in the building, he's seen the difference, and what he's describing isn't just a star getting attention, it's a movement. It's an arena that used to echo, now roaring with fans. It's the kind of electricity that turns casuals into season ticket holders. This isn't normal impact, ticket resale prices exploding. Entire cities shifting their sports calendars around one player. McAfee didn't need to hit you with stats or metaphors. He just told the truth. Caitlin Clark made Indiana Fever games matter again, and the wild part, she's only just getting started. Let's be real. When it comes to NBA star power, Lonzo Ball's not exactly top of the food chain. He's played with big names, but if we're ranking voices in the league, Lonzo's isn't the one that shakes the room. So when he chimed in on Caitlin Clark, calling her a top player, it caught attention. Not because he said it, but because of how he said it.
She's coming, though.
Okay.
Caitlin Clark is that, for sure.
She is.
I say she top, I want to say top 3, but I'll say top 5 just to be safe.
Just to be safe? That's not exactly a vote of confidence. But maybe that's the point, because let's be honest, if you've been on the sidelines as much as Lonzo has the past few years, maybe you're not the best judge of what dominance looks like right now. Caitlin's been playing, selling out arenas, facing pressure he never had to deal with, and even then, he still couldn't bring himself to call her anything less than top 5. That hesitation? It says more about Caitlin than it does about Lonzo. Because when players can see the greatness but can't quite say it, that's usually a sign they know what's happening. They're just not ready to admit how fast it's happening. She's not top 5 for a sophomore. She's not even top 5 for her position. She's just top 5, period. And if Lonzo Ball still needs a few more games to realize she's top 1, that's fine. The rest of us? We already know. There's praise, and then there's what Shannon Sharpe does. When he talks about greatness, it's not flowery, it's surgical. He brings numbers, history, and heat every time. And when he turned his focus to Caitlin Clark, he brought receipts.
She has the most 25-10 games in WNBA history, despite only playing 1 year, 2 games. Caitlin Clark has 6. Sabrina Ionescu has 5. DT, the great Diana Taurasi, has 4. Nobody else has more than 2. Clark did it in 44 career games. There have been a lot of back and forth. I think a lot of people didn't want to give her the credit that she deserved, where she needed to play X amount of years.
This isn't just statistical excellence, It's historical disruption. Caitlin Clark walked into the WNBA and did in months what it's taken legends years to do. And Shannon is calling out everyone who said she needs to prove herself. Well, she did. She didn't wait for another season. She didn't need a 5-year runway. She came in and redefined what's possible for a sophomore while carrying the weight of the entire league's attention. Shannon didn't sugarcoat it. People didn't want to give her credit. They wanted to move the goalposts. But when the stat sheet screams louder than the critics, there's no place left to hide. And Shannon's not the kind of guy to let that slide. He put the spotlight where it belonged. Not on the haters, but in the story she's already made. Every league needs a little chaos, and right now, Caitlin Clark is all of that and more, depending on who you ask. The takes have been fierce, but Isaiah Thomas? He gets it. He's lived it. And when asked about the whirlwind around Caitlin and the heated storylines building across the WNBA, his response wasn't panic, it was business.
The controversy, is good, and people have picked their sides and they'll pick their, who they like, who they don't like, why they like them, why they don't like them. But the most important thing is that you're watching.
Exactly. Because when sports get messy, when they get personal, that's when they go mainstream. That's when casual fans start caring. Thomas isn't worried about the drama. He's in let's be real. Caitlin Clark didn't create the controversy, but she sure as hell became the center of it. From physical fouls to media shade to internet firestorms, the league has become a battleground of opinions. And through it all, people can't stop watching. Love her or hate her, Caitlin Clark is the headline. And Thomas, who knows a thing or two about being loved and hated at the same time, sees the upside. Controversy? It's currency. And right now, Caitlin Clark is the richest storyline in the game. Most analysts play it safe, especially when talking about all-time this or most famous that. But Nick Wright? He skips the small talk, goes straight for the jugular. And when he weighed in on Caitlin Clark, he didn't just talk about WNBA players, he didn't just talk about women's basketball, he talked about everyone.
I think I might have said this to you last year, that I thought the most famous basketball player under 30 was Caitlin Clark. I don't think it's particularly close. She is demonstrably and inarguably more famous than all of this generation's NBA stars.
That's a bold claim, but it's also becoming harder to argue. Caitlin isn't just doing commercials, she is the commercial. Her highlight reels, posting Curry-like numbers on social media, she's outpacing NBA players with shoe deals, primetime slots, and playoff minutes under their belts. And it's not even close. Nick Wright sees it. She's not chasing fame, she's the name people know, even if they don't know what a pick and roll is. And that's the thing. Caitlin Clark isn't just rising through the WNBA, she's becoming a symbol. The symbol of where basketball is going next. Whether you love her or love to hate her, one thing is clear. Caitlin Clark has changed everything. She's not just putting up numbers, she's putting pressure on the league to evolve. From Tyrese Halliburton's respect, to Shannon Sharp's stats, to Wayne Gretzky's admiration, to Ben Shapiro's firestorm, she's brought the sports world into her orbit. And through it all, she just hoops. No excuses. Caitlin Clark isn't here to fit in, she's here to take over. And whether the world's cheering or booing, praising or nitpicking, they're all watching. Because Caitlin Clark, she's not just part of the WNBA conversation anymore. She is the conversation, and everyone else is just trying to keep up.